I'm not talking.
I love how it says that so loudly now. It didn't used to say. So I'm going to go ahead and start us, and I will watch out for the waiting room to see if we have anybody trying to get in.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm so excited to welcome Marcella Remund here tonight for us to celebrate her second book, the Book of Crooked Prayer, which came out during the pandemic. My name is Malika Albrecht, and I'm the founding editor. Oh, good. I do want to see the cover because I also like to know how you chose the cover. That's gorgeous. That's beautiful. Who is that by? Did you find the cover?
This is actually an illustration my brother did for me. Yeah, he is a visual artist in Ohio. And I said, I need an angel that's half angel and half moth. So that's what he did.
That's amazing. So you were saying you're not a visual artist, but clearly art runs throughout the family, including visual art. And not only
not in me.
No, well, likewise with me with the music. If you see in the background of Martha, she also plays music. So multi-talented family. I'm going to turn it over right away because we want to have as much time celebrating and listening to you. I did put your bio in the chat section, and I do want to mention that newly retired Marcella, and it was interesting. We got into the conversation, and Christy and Kieran and Laura, I think you also attended the festival that Marcella put on, the reading, and what an amazing time. And I think Kieran was saying how many poems she had gotten out of it. So it's really good to have you here. You've already made an impact on those of us attending. And I'm going to turn it over to you. So I'm going to spotlight you. It's all you. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Malika. And I want to give a shout out, even though she couldn't be here tonight, I want to give a shout out to Angela Dribbin, who introduced me to Malika and schemed to put us together. So my thanks to her as well. So first of all, let me just say that, or maybe I'll explain that later. So I'm recently retired from 25 years teaching college English. And it was a thrill to teach all those years, although I'm not very good with the bureaucracy of higher education. I love the students, and so it was a hard decision to retire, but I'm absolutely delighted that I have more time to write now and to think about my own writing. So the Book of Crooked Prayer, the whole idea behind the book was that I have had for a long time a fascination with world religions. My minor in college was world religions and religious studies. Although I don't consider myself a religious person personally, I am fascinated with religion, which seems odd, but there you have it. And I'm also very fascinated with the Catholic Church, especially, and Catholic saints. When I was a kid, my family was Presbyterian, and where I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, there was a Presbyterian church half a block from the Catholic Church. And my best friend from the time I was 4 or 5 on was Catholic. So we would go to Mass first, and then we would go to the service at the Presbyterian Church. So by the time I was maybe, I don't know, confirmation age or catechism age in the Catholic Church, everybody at the Catholic Church just assumed I was Catholic. And so I went up for communion because everybody else did, which is another whole story. But anyway, I have this sort of love-hate relationship with the Catholic Church. And of course, in light of, the events of the last 5 years, that becomes more fraught, I think, for many people. So I had this fascination with the Catholic Church, with Catholic saints, and especially with the idea that Catholic saints were first human before they were canonized, and what might they be thinking and feeling. And so I realized I had a bunch of poems that were either about actual saints or about saints I had invented myself. Like, I turned Judy Garland into a saint. I turned Amelia Earhart into a saint, and some others. So once I realized I had all these poems with this thread of sort of the push and pull of religion, I decided to put them together into the book, and that's where it comes from. So the first poem I'm going to read is called Saint Dymphna. And she is an actual saint. She's the patron saint of the mentally ill, among other things, because many Catholic saints are the patron saint of a whole list of things. So Saint Dymphna was a young girl whose mother died when she was quite young, and her father was an Irish chieftain. And her father, the story goes that he was so stricken with grief that he became enamored of Dymphna, the daughter, because she looked so much like his dead wife, her mother. And so he went after her. She fled. He found her, and because she still refused him, he had her killed. So in the poem, I decided that instead of intervening for the poet or the speaker of the poem really needed to intervene for Dymphna. So this is called Saint Dymphna, patron saint of the mentally ill. And the one thing I want to explain, and this is where I'm going to share my screen, I think. One of the things I want to explain is the Sheila Nagi. I don't know if I can make this bigger. This is an example of the Sheila Nagi, which is a figure found in sculptures and carvings all around Ireland. They are crones. They're old women who are sometimes grotesque and have exaggerated vulvas that they expose. And the purpose of the Sheila Nagi, they think, although no one really knows, is protection. So Saint Dymphna. Dymphna, in fitful dreams, I find you shivering in rowan and ferns along the Blackwater River, wreathed in St. John's wort and anointed with yellow rattle, half starved and wrapped in a keltar cinched at the waist with an oak rosary, humming strains of your mother's brief lullaby. But your father was a chieftain and knew the magic, found you anyway. Grief or madness drove him to finger your small bones for signs of her in the curve of your emerging breasts, the winged cup of your pelvis, your silky down, and you, a fugitive child, with courage enough to keep locked that garden gate. Though he found you again, sealed the gate forever. Forsaken daughter, in my own trembling delusion, I am your Sheila Nagi. We offer up a novena to our mother, and for 9 days, I give you this blessing too. My stone lap, cushioned with heather and moss, pillow for your bruised and worried brow. Thank you so much. Okay, this next poem, I'm gonna pull up a picture of my mother. So when I said I live in a multi-generational household, my mother, who is 85, lives with my husband and I, and we also have 3 dogs. Between us, we have 3 dogs. We lost our cat last year, so we don't have a cat. We do have 2 parrots and now 10 canaries. So yeah, many species and many generations. So this is my mother, and the next poem is called Bodhisattva. And if you know a bit about Buddhism, then you know that bodhisattvas are people who are released from the cycle of birth and death, but they choose to remain in physical form to help along other people still going through that cycle. So bodhisattvas are like helpers. Bodhisattva. My mother's cancer is in her blood, mercurial cells jumping their vesseled banks to tributaries of lymph, spilling tumor seeds in lungs, breasts, brain. Mercury comes from the Greek hydragyros, water silver. Its atomic number is 80, of course, same as my mother's. In Tibet, mercury was thought to mend broken bones. Alchemists used it to turn base metals into gold. And maybe that's all true. Maybe the water silver in my mother's body is mending someone else's bones. My mother is like that, always fixing someone's broken wing or heart. Or maybe it's turning the base metal of her traitorous body into pure golden energy that, when released at last, will pulse through us out into the ether. We are never ready. And maybe this is her first and last lesson for me. Water silver, like everything else, must return to its source. Thank you. I have these poems numbered, but you still have to find the numbers. So, okay. This next poem, I'm just going to leave the screen the way it is for now. This next poem is a poem about a place in the Black Hills where I like to spend time. It's pretty high up in the hills at a place called O'Neill Pass. I've been lucky enough to spend some time at a cabin at about, I think it's about 8,200 feet up on O'Neill Pass. And so this is a poem about the idea that that church can be a number of things to different people. It's called Vespers. And again, if you know a little bit about Catholic Church, Vespers is the evening prayers. So this is called Vespers, O'Neill Pass, Black Hills, South Dakota. The sun, luminous host of burnt orange, golden rose, falls early into the open mouth of the Black Hills. In shadow, elk drink from a limestone sinkhole, verdigris cup still running over with Tuesday's sudden rain. Bats wake, slip from pines still standing or planed into cabin eaves. Wings flutter like paper fans in summer church. Dakota skippers take one last blessing from harebell or Mariposa lily. White-tailed doe coaxes a fawn up an aisle of timothy grass to the sanctuary of ponderosa pine, quaking aspen. Dark settles in, stars blink on in the black July sky, and then the singing. Invisible coyote choir at the tree line. Tremulous songs of love, fear, want. Oh, the candles are lit. Hymns echo in thin, cool air. The priest is everywhere. My heart splits like a wafer. Each caught breath, my offering on this plate of limestone, and I am on my knees. Okay, let's see. Okay, and this is sort of hymn to older women. So this is called She Is Never Enough. She is a testament, a monument to the comforts of her kitchen, to bad meds, faulty joints, too much breast milk or not enough, to corn and soybeans, long still winters, to slow metabolisms, abusive fathers, friendless childhoods, romantic betrayals, media conspiracies, patronage, to wild gene pools where breaded pan-fried fish swim in currents of heavy cream. Oh, the potlucks where her breasts, those banners of bulk, announce her arrival, where even as she reaches the table with a Velveeta and tater tot masterpiece, parts of her are still arriving. Oh, her thighs, their friction sparking brush fires in the grass. She, a walking, delicious backyard barbecue. Oh, her footsteps or dancing, tribal rhythms that beat our hearts for us. Let us celebrate the plenty of her, the enfolding, the enveloping, the subduing of glass sharp angles and uncomfortable jutting ribs, the quashing of size 2. Let us give thanks for the cornucopia of her, overflowing abundance and radiance, her body in constant undulating motion, her beauty too splendid, too generous to fill only one cup. Oh, thank you. That was a little silly, but fun. Do I have time for one more, Malika?
Had to
Okay.
find the unmute. Yes, please. And I love that one. I'm going to ask you to read it again. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I want to celebrate the plenty of her. No, I love that. I think it's actually a really, it's playful, yes, but it's also very brave and real. And I like it. And I could see other people going, yes.
Thank you. Okay, so this, let me see what this other one is. The project I'm working on now are poems about the Magdalene Laundries of Ireland. I think most people are familiar by now with those institutions where young women were incarcerated and forced into unpaid labor. And they were mostly deemed guilty of sexual sins. So being pregnant out of wedlock, being promiscuous, being too flirtatious. Girls could be sent to these homes for any number of sins. Canadian schools. I think there have been 2 so far. This new one, they found over 700, the remains of over 700 kids buried at this Canadian school. And these were Indian boarding schools. Indigenous kids were sent to these schools. So between my research into the Magdalene Laundries and the mother and baby homes, as they were called in Ireland, and these new revelations about the Canadian boarding schools, and of course the United States had boarding schools all over, I expect similar bad news to come out of the United States before long. So this poem came out of all of these things, and it's called Heretic's Prayer. I am outside skirting the sanctuary. It's true, I love your dark cocoon, air heavy with frankincense. I look good in sackcloth. I once swooned at Mary's alabaster feet, red candle for each dead friend, but I'm outside now, kicking gravel in the parking lot. Father Church, middle-aged miser, you stockpile tithes, real estate, paintings, you pass off bleached sheep bones as John's left thumb or Peter's ankle bone for cold hard cash. Turn a blind eye under a gilded mitre from people living on grubs. You turn goodness to sin, peasant woman's pennyroyal to witch's brew, harvest blessing to porn, metaphysics to black magic, red-haired night owl Lilith to Adam's hysterical ex, even Christ's own sweetheart to whore. Uncover your ears, I'm wailing out here. Tell me this is history. Tell me you've dressed it down, wised up, that God's army isn't still out there on horseback, hunting down blasphemers and heretics. Tell me you've spread your arms to the faithful women who've cleaned up after you from the beginning. Tell me your priest wrapped a pregnant, bone-hollow, HIV-positive Sudanese girl in his velvet robes. Tell me you've uncorked God's blessing, poured it out for gays, divorcees, little boys lured into the sacristy. Tell me your holy curator bartered your stash of Egyptian relics for rice and beans. Tell me you've gathered in the lost chapters, turned your sacramental wine to tears, pawned the fisherman's ring for blankets, medicine, corrugated tin. Tell me that late last night, baptismal fonts ran with free milk and honey. Altars crumbled, roses rained from the choir loft. Mary broke the rock, charmed the snake, wept. Tell me that, and I'll come back inside, fall down on my knees. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. There we go.
I'm still speechless with the Heretic's Prayer. That was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I know other people want to jump in too, and I don't want to miss out on the chat section because I just set it down for a second. I'm going to move it back over. You can unmute and clap so you can actually hear us this time, Marcella, because I know I can see everybody doing it.
I've got to have this book.
I'm telling you.
I have to read it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. It was a pleasure to read.
Wow.
It was just fabulous. And I have to say, like, I was caught by several different things. The first one is like the lushness
And, you know, the imagery is easy to get swept up in, but I really admire the way that you tie in different things, and that you do research did not surprise me, because you could feel it in the poem, but it's so seamless that it seemed organic. So I just really wanted to come back to that and say, how do you do that? Because it's really pretty amazing.
Well, thank you. That is, you know, the research is one of the parts of writing poems that I really love. And what I try to do is just saturate myself in reading. So I have, I bet I have 6 or 7 encyclopedias of Catholic saints. And I knew that I really only wanted to deal with the women saints, the female saints. So I just, you know, I just went through these books night and day, you know. I mean, it isn't all I did, of course, but I went through the books over and over and just read about these female Catholic saints. And I knew, as I read, I knew immediately which ones I wanted to write about. You know, like there would be some little detail that just struck me. Like I turned Joan of Arc into a saint because when I read her biography, the thing that really hit me was they burned her at the stake, but her heart was intact, was red and flush with blood and intact, according to all the legends and biographies. Yeah. So they chopped it into little pieces so she couldn't come back and get them for burning her at the stake. And when I read that, I thought, okay, I have to make her a saint, you know.
Yeah, you do.
When I read about Saint Dymphna's father and mother, I just knew she would have to be a saint as well. So the research was, you know, half the fun. Writing the poems was the hard work.
But you know, your joy of details and of research really shows. And I love when a poem teaches me something new, or, you know, not only, you know, creates this world or this whole experience and has it done so in a musical way, but also that I walk away going, I learned something.
Right, right.
I love that. So I was fascinated. And I noticed, I don't know, you won't be able to, you probably haven't been able to keep up with the chat section, but I told you I would send it. Hi, Sandra. But there was quite a few that people just all, my heart splits like wafer. That had several people doing it at the same time. Yeah. The Plenty of Her really, really got to people. Quashing of Size 2. Tell Me You've Uncorked God's Blessing. Yeah, the repetition of Tell Me in that Heretic's Prayer was really just cumulative and amazing. Yeah.
Well, I wanted it to sound like desperate begging.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the purpose of that. Like, I really, really want to come back in, but you got to convince me. So, yeah, so it was supposed to sound a little desperate.
I love it. I love the impact it has as it builds. I thought that was really fabulous.
No,
Humming strains of your mother's brief lullaby. Yeah, so I will send this chat section to you so you can see what all was resonating. Jump in if y'all have questions for Marcella while we have her here.
I'm going to stay for the open mic because I want to hear everybody else read.
I'm just curious, do you have a daily writing practice, or do you just go where the mood takes you?
That's a great question. I'm a really lazy and undisciplined writer. So no, I don't have a regular writing practice. Although I have found in the last maybe 6 months that I have my best ideas. If I'm going to have any good ideas, I'm going to have them in the morning.
Really?
So I've been trying to, and I have a really loud household too, I should say that. So I try to write early in the morning while I'm having coffee, before anybody else gets up and before the birds and dogs are all, scrambling and making noise. So that's when I do my best work. But I honestly, I don't write every morning. I have to write around my schedule, so, and my household. So, yeah.
Yes, I love the activity with the household, and that picture of your mother. Oh my God, that was priceless.
Wasn't that great? Yeah.
And again, like that tying in of the mom and Bodhisattva and the silver night, silver water, silver. I loved all that. I was just like, that's masterful. It was beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. Thanks.
It's great to see those things all come together and inform each other in such a way that, works so perfectly. It was lovely.
Well, I have what I call a shrine in my house, and the shrine has probably, I don't know, 25 items on it from every religion that I know of.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to do that in the book too. And there's a poem in the book called Mala that really comes from Islam and Hinduism. There are a couple poems that come out of a Buddhist tradition, and lots of Catholic poems, because that's my current obsession. But yeah, so.
That kind of makes me want to see the Museum of Marcella and
Oh, I don't know.
I want to see that shrine.
Yeah, right. So we're gonna have to buy the book and see what pieces we can feel like we're
Right.
experiencing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I love the book, and I've been fortunate that I've had it since, I think, late December. And I'm so sorry I jumped in late.
Oh, we're just glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm working, and a meeting went over, and I was just like, oh, I'm gonna miss the reading. I'm gonna miss the reading. But yeah, I wanted to come in. I wanted to ask you like a really specific question that's kind of been on my mind ever
Sure.
since I started reading the book, which is, and it's really like drilled down specific.
Sure.
Can you talk about the word crooked?
Oh. Well, I guess originally the book title was meant to sort of parody the Book of Common Prayer, the Lutheran Book of Common Prayer. But I didn't think there was anything common about the way people prayed. And I feel like my own prayers are very crooked. I feel like my own prayers go out to whomever might be listening, or whatever might be listening, so I don't think that's ever a straight line between me and the universe or whatever. Also, I think even if we observe a pretty traditional religious viewpoint, there's always something crooked about prayer. We're desperate. God isn't listening. The saints have human foibles like the rest of us. It's all, there are no straight lines. So for me, it's all just slightly askew, not crooked in a bad way, but just, it's a wandering path. It's not a straight line. And I thought about putting that little diacritical mark over the E. But then I thought, if somebody reads it as the Book of Crooked Prayer, that works for me too. So, so I left it off. But great question.
Right. Yeah, no, it's such a provocative book title. which of course, just foreshadows for me, what you get exposed to when you're reading the individual poems. And I haven't heard you talk
Right.
I've heard you talk about that it originated from the Book of Common Prayer before, but I'd never heard about the choice of
Right.
crooked. And I was just, I've just always wondered, and today is the day that, I
Got to
get
ask.
to hear about it. Yeah. But I just have always found it very provocative and really, it makes me think a little bit too of Emily Dickinson and the idea of, I came in right on the litany of tell her, and that reminds me, of course, of like, tell it all but tell it slant, and I often was thinking of crooked and slant in a similar vein as well.
Which makes perfect sense because it is all askew and slanted. Yeah.
And I'm thinking about also how, Dickinson wrote in that hymn meter. So anyway.
What
Cool.
a great question. I'm so glad that you were here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was nice to hear the answer, because book titles are such an interesting thing in and of themselves. So thank you. Thanks for answering.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm hoping, Sandra, you heard that her brother did the cover, because I found that fascinating. And
I had known that. I had heard, I'd heard that the provenance there before.
Yeah.
So yes.
He did the cover of the first book too.
Oh yeah, that's
Wow.
fabulous.
Wow.
And when he first sent me I said, I need a mermaid, but I need her to be kind of ugly. And so he sent me this drawing, and she had these grotesque pendulous breasts with nothing on them, with huge nipples. And I said, I really want her to be wearing a top of some kind. So that's how she ended up. And you guys don't know this, but my brother has red hair, and she looks a lot like my brother.
And now I've got to ask, are you the older sister?
I'm older than him.
Yeah, it sounds like how I talk to my brother, who is my baby, my baby brother. So that just cracked me up.
He is my baby brother. So then when he did this one, I said, I want an angel, but I want the angel to be androgynous and look a little bit like a moth. So that's what I got.
Oh, that's awesome. It's great to be able to tell somebody what you want and then have them create it.
It really is.
Fabulous. That really is.
It really is fun.
Oh my gosh. I did want you to read that poem again. I really did.
Please.
I'm sorry, I have to hear it again. It just made me so happy.
Yeah, it was great.
The plenty of her. I'm still celebrating that.
Let me find, okay. She is never enough.
Yes.
She is a testament, a monument to the comforts of her kitchen, to bad meds, faulty joints, too much breast milk or not enough, to corn and soybeans, long still winters, to slow metabolisms, abusive fathers, friendless childhoods, romantic betrayals, media conspiracies, patronage, to wild gene pools where breaded, pan-fried fish swim in currents of heavy cream. Oh, the potlucks where her breasts, those banners of bulk, announce her arrival, where even as she reaches the table with a Velveeta and tater tot masterpiece, parts of her are still arriving. Oh, her thighs, their friction sparking brush fires in the grass. She, a walking, delicious backyard barbecue. Oh, her footsteps or dancing, tribal rhythms that beat our hearts for us. Let us celebrate the plenty of her, the enfolding, the enveloping, the subduing of glass sharp angles and uncomfortable jutting ribs, the quashing of size 2. Let us give thanks for the cornucopia of her, overflowing abundance and radiance, her body in constant undulating motion, her beauty too splendid, too generous to fill only one cup.
Love that.
Yeah, it just makes me happy.
Thank
Thank you for reading it again.
You're welcome.
Oh, that was lovely. Well, that was amazing. And
Thank
it's
you.
just so great to meet you and get to talk. And so we did talk about if people wanted to get in touch with you, your email is in the chat section. Just
Yep.
remind y'all, surfaceworld@yahoo.com.
Yep.
And we know that Marcella has retired and we have started talking about maybe workshops or things like that. Do you have newsletter or anything that you send out to let people know what you're up to?
I have a website where let me see.
I think do I have it? No, I did not put it in my chat section. I'm sorry.
There it is, marcellaremund.com.
Great.
And I tried to, when I'm giving a workshop, I try to list it on the website. So
Awesome.
they're usually up there. And I've been doing workshops on, the most recent one I did was on haiku. I did a haiku workshop because I love incorporating haiku into longer poems. That's just a thing I'm interested in now. And then I do a workshop on dream journals, which I have been keeping since 1983. I do a workshop on the Magdalene Laundries. I've done that a couple times. So yeah, I'm trying to do more of that for the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute.
Good.
I think they have ollies all over the United States, where I get to teach people who are interested and not 18-year-old students who fall asleep. So it's been pretty fun to do those.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I love the dream journal one too. That's fabulous.
Yeah, that's a fun one. I like doing that.
You know, I'm curious because you talked a little earlier, and I think it was I think it was Karen that asked the question about a daily practice.
Mhm.
And I'm very similar in that I also don't have a daily practice either. So I
good to
really
know.
oh yeah, I really, how you described it is like, yep. And I had to like deal with my own demons around that also because
Right.
one's own legitimacy, whatever.
Right.
But we
Right.
all, but as a person who teaches writing and directs a writing center, at the same time, I all know we have our own process, and as long as it works for us,
Right.
that's what's most important.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about that dream journal, and there are all kinds of ways to be writing, and obviously that the longevity of that journal
Mhm.
it certainly has weight in terms of your oeuvre as a writer
Right.
and your process. And so I would just I don't know, I like to remind folks that there are all kinds of ways to have a really successful practice.
Mhm.
And the incorporation of your dream journal, which seems to have been very, very consistent for you,
Mhm.
is really one of those things. Even
Yeah,
though you
I
might
think
not be writing
writing
daily,
poems.
you are writing poems daily.
Right.
You are evoking you are working those muscles.
That is such a great point. I'm
Yeah.
glad you point that out because you're so right. And I think we make, I know I certainly do this, beat myself up sometimes because I don't have a regular practice. But everything I write is practice. So even letters and text messages, it's all practice. And poems, over the years, I have been given, I'll choose to look at it that way. I have been given poems out of those dream journals and text messages and letters. Poems do come out of those things. So thank you for reminding me that that's
Yeah.
all part of the process.
No, that was awesome. And it really does kind of open up the concept of all of it is grist for the mill. And so often, there's this demand to sit chained to the desk
Right.
actually writing poems. So thank you, both of y'all.
Right.
And the dream journal immediately appealed to me. I used to keep one. I was thinking, oh, that would be simple enough to have it again by my bed.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, guys. That's really an important thing I needed to hear and didn't know it.
Great.
Well, if people don't have questions, we do have a few moments and we would love to hear anybody read that would like to share something or read a poem. And if you would like me to pause the recording, I'd be more than happy to do so. You can just quickly send me mail, a quick chat section for me to pause and I'll do so, or jump on in if you'd like to read.
I'll read.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Yay, thank you.
So this is in the chapbook titled Finding Her that will be out with Finishing Line Press in 2022. But I decided I had to read this tonight because you said squelching the size 2. So this is the first time that somebody burst my bubble and I had to write it down. So this is called Yoga Pants, and bear with me because I'm having a visual issue at the moment, so I might have to readjust. Shopping at Target, I see them and smile. Remember wearing a similar pair, sister yogas. These are heathered gray. A teal roll down band provides a backdrop for silvered leopard spots. Remembering my legs, strong and shapely, used to plant my feet, raise my bottom, bridge all of my strength. My sister yogas assisted that derriere move, squeezing tight, lifting body parts into perfect poses. My abs, never carved, but always flat, stood at attention, saluting the colored band that kissed my belly button and nuzzled its bejeweled ring. I have to try these on. Snatching them off the rack, I glide into the fitting room. Just outside my stall door, a full-length mirror waits. My eyes alight with hope as they adjust to the reflection. A fellow shopper smiles behind me. Hold on just 1 second. Oh, you precious thing. Those yoga pants hug your love bundle. And just like that, my belly button's unintentional smile opened wide the veil, swaddling my all too unrealistic fantasy, lost somewhere between not pregnant and not even almost flat.
Kirsty.
Oh, Christy, that's
Couldn't
great.
resist. I went straight home from Target and I had to write that down. It really happened. So,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and sometimes the poem just is really what happened. That's awesome. I think we all can relate to that in some,
Oh, yeah.
I came home and ate half a pint of ice cream.
Oh, I'm with you.
That's so
Thanks
great.
for reading. Thanks for starting it out, Christy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Would anybody else like to read?
Yeah. All right, I've got one.
Yay, Karen.
So, yeah, so I love hearing about you researching things, Marcella, because I like to just like go to complete word geekville I like to just research words. I just love words. So I was going to tell y'all there's a website. What's it called? Relatedwords.org.
Oh,
Oh, I love it so
Rabbit
much.
hole.
I love it. It's
Rabbit
kind of ridiculous. Yeah. So like I'll just think, well, what can I say about a woodpecker or whatever? So I'll just put in words related to woodpeckers, right? And then this is kind of like a stream of consciousness website. I mean, a lot of the words have nothing to do with woodpecker, but it just kind of, anyway, this poem has I did this with a bird thing. I was thinking, oh, my breast. I was thinking about my breast that I gave away that I do not have anymore. And I was like, they're my breast. It's kind of like a nest. I don't know. Maybe I can get some bird words out of it. So that's what I did. So, and usually I just put really obnoxious, obscure words in poems and don't care. And I'm like, well, if somebody cares, they can look them up because that's what I do. But I'll save y'all that trouble just in case. So flummery is one of the obnoxious words I use, but I love it. And it means just empty compliments. Flummery, right? I mean, I'm sorry. I just love that word so much. And the other one is eulogize, OOLOgize, eulogize, which is the study of bird eggs. So anyway, those words just made me so happy. I'm like,
Those are great words.
they are.
Yeah, right? Flummery and eulogize. Okay, anyway, so the words may be more exciting than the poem, but here's the poem anyway. No flummery of any kind here. No need to eulogize what mounds not be found here. Here, there is no need to eulogize. My breast is feathered nest, is cupped hands holding clutch of dreams, is hatchery, is boisterous, is house wren singing out.
Oh, Karen.
I love
That's
That's
a
awesome.
terrific poem.
Yay.
Actually, yeah. So
Eulogize.
don't sell
Ooh.
that poem short. Don't
Mm.
sell that one
Great.
short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
no, Thank
Wow.
you, Karen. That was awesome.
Oh,
I
thank
love
you.
that repetition of is too.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Oh. Yeah, so that was a fun poem. So that's my secret sinful wordplay.
Yeah, I have a feeling like Laura said that you said rabbit's hole, Laura.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah,
kind of website that I would get trapped.
It's
Yeah.
so much fun.
I
It's
agree.
really fun.
But I
to-
wrote it down, so I
Yeah,
didn't-
same. I wrote it down. I was like, oh, good.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a great way to honestly, it's a great way to hatch a poem, or just to kind of like, if you're writing a poem, you're like, well, God dang, my metaphors kind of suck, or it's just not good. You can just be like, well, I really like that thing I said about puppets. What else could I say? Oh, I'm going to go to words related to puppets, and it just gives you some places to launch and go crazy.
Right.
Fun.
I'm going to be obsessed with that now. I'm going to have to do it.
It's a thing. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. I needed another thing to go traveling down.
I
into
know,
the-
right? We
the
need more
depths.
ways on the internet,
But I
right?
love that. I love the synergy that poets have with each other. And we're very fortunate that, we get to have conversations with the past, with the future, with the present, with each other. And then with websites that give us research for poems
Yeah.
or different words. That was
Yeah.
lovely. It's a playful poem that's very serious at the same time. And I love
Yeah.
that you were able to do that, to balance that. It's very
Yeah.
lovely, very
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if nobody else would like to read, I want to say thank y'all so
Thank
much
you.
for being here and being such good company. And Marcella,
Thank
it
you.
was such a pleasure
Thank you.
to spend time with your book and you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Malika, can I ask you something else?
Yes.
Can you tell everybody what your YouTube page is so we can go back and maybe
Yes.
Sandra, who
You
missed
know,
the reading tonight, you can see it.
Malika, the easiest way to find it, and let me go ahead and get it, I can put it up there, but it's Malika 888 just because that wasn't taken. So I will put the channel up there because there are some amazing, I mean, I just go back and look at these videos and go, heaven's sake, we've been so blessed. And Angela was fabulous, and I'm so grateful for her for introducing me to Marcella. And so this is, I'll get the channel, but if you look up Malika 888, it should come up. Here we go.
Great.
And
Sandy's
over
the reason I met Angela, so really we're all related.
Oh, really? So Sandy, we have you to thank for this. Thank you, Sandy. That's awesome.
Yeah,
What a small, beautiful world.
it is.
But so in over 50 poets that we've celebrated that had books out during the pandemic. And it's just a wide variety of people, and it's just been so amazing. And people that have been have come and been celebrated, and we celebrated their book, have suggested to other people. So it's kind of snowballed. I just intended to do a couple of book launches for friends, and then this is what we've been able to do.
Oh
So.
no, you're in for life now, Malika. You can't
Well, I
stop.
enjoy it. It's been the highlight of my Thursdays. It's been, my social life and my touchstone. So, and we get to meet amazing people that we're going to talk into doing workshops. So.
There you go.
It's a very good work. I met Marcella through something my sister and I started called Cultivating Voices Live Poetry on Facebook.
Oh yeah, y'all have been fabulous. Yes.
So so I know exactly what you're saying. Like it's been a real lifeline to have these readings during the pandemic, and actually I really hope that I'm excited to start going back to in-person readings at some point, but I've met so many people all over.
And people you wouldn't have met because they're all over the country. Exactly.
Yeah, and
great.
and to be in the Zoom room with different people that I would never really be able to get to talk with, or it's just been there's a way that it's been really liberating. And so I'm really grateful for all the folks who stepped up and started these platforms, because I just think we've all benefited so much. So that's no small thing to have introduced 50 writers to different audiences. So I just want to say brava to you for that.
Oh, thank you, Sandy. And also to y'all for cultivating voices. I mean, that I've heard, great things. And then Wild and Precious series by Dustin. And then of course, Wednesday Night Poetry with Kai. So, I mean, we have been so blessed with community builders and writers who have worked together to bring, these opportunities that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So yeah, I'm with you.
And I hope it keeps up. I hope even when we're back to face that the Zoom world continues, because
I agree.
I think it's so special. I feel like the Zoom rooms are more intimate than going to a reading in a bookstore in a lot of ways.
Well, I certainly have met people I never would have met. And I live in rural South Dakota where there are no writers groups, or at least not very big ones, so I heard about Cultivating Voices from my neighbor and Tweety,
right,
who just happened to be on there. So it's like, none of this would have come about had the Zoom world of poetry not existed. So I'm extremely grateful.
Yeah, and I agree. There's a different kind of intimacy, right? Like if I were to go to a reading, I would be, just me being me, I'd be less inclined to kind of walk up and and talk to, I mean, I might try to get this, my book signed,
right,
but I wouldn't necessarily engage in conversation with people that I've not met before.
Yeah, with the audience.
I mean, obviously, with the audience members, and like the conversation today, again, I'm so sorry I missed the actual, the reading,
It's okay.
Marcella's reading, but I love the opportunity to hear folks read their poetry and then get to have us just have a conversation together that feels really comfortable and not threatening. And I mean, of course, you have to choose carefully. I'm sure there are some places that are a little more anxiety producing than others, but I know to steer away from those situations. And I do think there's an intimacy it's a very different thing. And I'm just really grateful for it.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Me too.
Yeah,
It's
very true. And that's why I said I live in a very rural area and I live on a farm. So even when readings were happening in person, I rarely went. So this for me has actually been, amazing. I've gotten to really attend things that I would have never had a chance to do.
Yeah.
Because chickens need to be put to bed. Horses and pigs.
That's right.
All right, guys, you have been fabulous. Such a joy.
Good night, everybody.
Thank
y'all
you all.
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Well,
Thank you.
Hi, Marcella.
Bye.
Thanks. Take
See you
care,
all
everyone.
soon.
yes,
Yes.
definitely.